From Normal Guy News, world headquarters in a tiny apartment, this is Normal Guy News with Tony. Welcome to Normal Guy News. I'm a normal guy, and this is the news. We start tonight with the news you're not going to hear on NGN. Here's what the fake news blasted across your nervous systems last week. Iran blew up a U.S. jet. 2 planes almost collided in midair. A college kid from Alabama was found dead in Spain. A doctor tried to kill his wife. A New York State trooper almost got hurt in a car crash. A mayor in Idaho died. The Pentagon wants $200 billion more for the war. California beaches closed due to shark attacks. 38% of TSA workers called in because they're not getting paid. And the Rhode Island High School hockey team won the big game. Now let's summarize. Someone died, a bunch of people almost died, someone else died, someone else almost died, a mayor died, beaches closed to keep people from dying. Every single story is about death. And the other two? Money. The government wants more money to kill people. TSA workers aren't getting paid, so we get to stand in line for an extra hour. And then to wrap it all up, they toss in the fluffy feel-good piece. Rhode Island High School hockey team wins.
His name is Nutty the Squirrel, and he's 3 years old. How about that? That squirrel can water ski. Oh.
You know that old phrase, there are only 2 certainties in life, death and taxes? Well, the news only talks about death and money. You know why?
If it bleeds, it leads, right?
Because fear of death runs half the decisions in your brain. We gravitate towards stories about death because we're terrified of it, and we're constantly scanning for tips on how to avoid it. But here's the real question. What do we actually want?
I would have to say world peace. Definitely world peace.
That's easy.
World peace.
And world peace.
Well, every pageant contestant says they want world peace. And speaking of world peace, did you hear Donald Trump's New Year's resolution for 2026?
Mr. President, do you have a New Year's resolution?
I have.
Let's hear it.
Peace on earth. Peace on earth.
Now, maybe you're a Trump fan and maybe you're not. But he doesn't seem to be doing a very good job on keeping that resolution. And sure, we all fail our resolutions, but this one wasn't supposed to be optional.
Now, Director Gabbard,
under the law, you are responsible for providing national intelligence to the president, correct?
Yes.
Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated, end quote, correct?
That's right.
And is that, in fact, the assessment of the intelligence community?
Yes.
And the opening statement you submitted to the committee last night also stated, quote, there has been no effort since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability, end quote, correct?
That's right.
And that's the assessment of the intelligence community.
Yes.
The White House stated on March 1st of this year that this war was launched and was, quote, a military campaign to eliminate the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, end quote. That's a statement from the White House. Quote, the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime. Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, yes or no?
Senator, the only person who can determine what is and is not an imminent threat is the president.
Oh, so it was his decision. And only his decision. In tonight's Spotlight segment, hearing voices. What would you think if you started hearing voices? And then what if the voices said, I'm going to make you feel something, and you felt a vibration in your head? What would you think? I'm actually asking you to stop and think about it for a second. Most people would think they were schizo and needed medicine. I mean, anybody hearing voices in their head is probably schizo, right? Here's a quick list of famous people who heard voices in their head. All those people can't be schizophrenic too, right? Okay, so if you don't think you're schizo, you might think God is talking to you. And that would be a smart assumption. Here's a list of all the people in the Bible who heard voices in their head. Do we wish those people had taken medication for schizophrenia? Well, if all those famous people and all the people from the Bible heard voices in their head, it must be a good thing, right? Well, here are some other people who heard voices in their head. So when you hear voices in your head, there's no telling whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I went through these thoughts 10 years ago when I first started hearing voices. Then after the voices started, I began to experience other strange symptoms, like I realized my emotions were being controlled. I had strange stabbing pains which became patterns. Every day for months, it felt like someone was stabbing a knife into my eyeball and holding it there. And there were a lot of other physical effects, all while hearing these voices in my head. In 1961, American neurobiologist Alan H. Frey published his findings on the microwave auditory effect in the Journal of Applied Physiology. This effect, also called the Frey Effect, showed how sounds can be induced by pulsed radio frequencies, generating sound directly inside the human head. Even deaf people could hear them. Now, Frey was into some other weird things. He also microwaved cats and found that stimulation of the hypothalamus could induce powerful emotions. Then he synchronized pulsed microwaves with the myocardial rhythm of a frog's heart. It stopped the frog's heart. Now, if you think this is all conspiracy theory, go look it up on Wikipedia. He was able to stop a frog's heart with beamed electromagnetics. Now, learning about this stuff was big for me because not only was I feeling these strange sensations and hearing these voices, I started feeling like something was able to control my limbs and induce emotions. There were times where I'd be sitting there crying or laughing, and inside I had no emotions. It felt like these were coming from outside of me. And then there were the heart palpitations. For most of the first 7 years of this experience, it felt like my heart was going to explode constantly, just like those poor frogs from Frey's experiments. MK-Ultra was a CIA mind control program that ran from 1953 to 1973, where the government performed experiments on United States and Canadian citizens without their knowledge. And this isn't speculation, it's on our government's website. Which brings us to Havana Syndrome. I'll talk more about Havana Syndrome in future episodes, but for now I'll give you a brief explanation. In 2016, a bunch of US and Canadian diplomats were in Cuba. They started having strange sensations in their bodies and a tinnitus ringing in their ears. In the years since, thousands more government employees have come forward with these same symptoms from all across the world. When I first heard about this, it was so similar to my experience, I thought it had to be related. And of course, everyone I talked to said that I was crazy and I should take my medicine. And then I learned about the voice of God weapon. These weapons were supposedly used on enemy soldiers in the Iraq War. There are many accounts of Iraqi soldiers hearing a voice in their head during combat, telling them it was God and that they needed to put down their weapons. Watch this video clip from a man who claims that it's totally possible.
I call this hypersonic sound. I got this waterfall I recorded in my backyard. Now, you're not going to hear a thing unless it hits you. If you don't want to hear it, you take about one step to the side and you don't hear it. And so when I aim it towards you, what you hear is made right next to your ears. We've got the military had just deployed some of these into Iraq where you can put fake troop movements a quarter of a mile away on a hillside. Or you can whisper in the ear of a supposed terrorist some biblical verse. I'm serious. We make a version of this which puts out 155 decibels. Pain is 120. We sell those to the military presently for about $70,000. And they're buying them as fast as we can make them.
So taking into account the history of voice hearers, the Frey Effect, the voice of God weapons, and Havana Syndrome, when you take all these into account, you have to assume that voice hearers are just experiencing a message from God or attacks by the government, right? Well, not so fast. Similar symptoms are mentioned in the oldest written records in human history, the Sumerian tablets written about 5,000 years ago. So yes, the technology to cause these symptoms may exist, but these experiences are not new. And lastly, we come to aliens. Now, you might not believe in aliens, but in most encounters ever recorded, aliens don't tend to communicate with their mouths. They tend to use telepathy. So right now, in this same world that you're living in, thousands or perhaps millions of people are going through these same experiences, hearing voices, feeling their bodies being manipulated by unseen forces. Some people know they're being targeted by energy weapons. Some people know they're being interacted with by aliens. And some know that it's all angels and demons. Also, if you want some extra homework, go look up egregores and tulpas, how our mind can create characters just through imagination and intention. So add this all together, and what do you have? And the answer is no one knows. Our governments may have done the research on this at some point with our tax dollars, but they haven't shared that information with us. And in my research, there is not a clear answer. It turns into the unsolvable equation. In Star Trek, they called it the Kobayashi Maru, the unwinnable battle. So we can make assumptions about these things, but they don't really matter. In the Parawareness group, we found that the best answer is just to be your best self, regardless of what's happening in the moment. Not burying our heads in the sand and hiding from truth, but taking all information into account and using it to discern our best path forward. Now, I know this is a difficult talk for people to have, especially with war happening right now and all the scary things in the world. We've got so much change on the horizon. No one wants to look at this right now, but I think that it's important because we need to be on the watch for deception. From proven programs like MK Ultra to assurances in the early 2000s from our government that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction just so they could start a war, and then giving the war contracts to their friends and business partners. We have to realize that there are people in this world that are going to use their power to control us, just like the tyrants I talked about in the last episode. In my opinion, we need to be on the lookout for upcoming false flag operations. We need to strengthen our local communities. We need to be honest and know ourselves. And most of all, I think we need to love each other. And now, movie news. It has come to the attention of Normal Guy News that all turmoil in the Star Wars universe was not caused by Darth Vader or Senator Palpatine. In a surprise turn, our research revealed the Wookiee Chewbacca to be the secret puppet master of all evil doings in the Star Wars universe, proven by this bit of video evidence uncovered by our investigators.
Chewie, lock in the auxiliary power. Chewie, lock in the auxiliary power.
Everything would have been fine if Chewie had just locked in the auxiliary power right when he was told to do so. Now, I, for one, find this extremely suspicious, and Normal Guy News will stop at nothing to expose the truth of this Star Wars deception. Thank you for watching episode 3 of Normal Guy News. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. To all of my targeted individual and experiencer friends, I wish you peace, strength, and discernment. And remember, if you're not afraid, you're not watching enough news.